Greetings! You're watching Septum Sen versus the World. I'm Septum Sen, and I'm here with Kotobuki Jake,
Hey.
and we are here to show you what we got. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have some big pickups.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not those weeks. But I still have some nice ones.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, as we discuss it, when you get a chance to watch the new releases for this week,
Yeah.
we both got pre-orders coming up. I usually don't have very many at a time, but I actually have currently 3. 2 are coming out next week. 1 is TBD at this point.
Yep.
Um,
I'm trying to not have many anymore. Now, I did get some good viewing in, and
yeah.
I beat a video game.
Ooh.
That's a rarity for me. I don't do that much anymore. I finally beat South Park Fractured Butthole, which it's a South Park episode,
Yeah.
a very extended South Park episode that you get to play.
Mm-hmm.
I will be doing a review. It's in my stack of reviews. It's just that my reviews take me a boatload of time to edit, and time is at a premium these days.
Especially when you're playing video games.
Especially when you're playing video games.
It's one reason I don't do very many.
But
We'll have to take a crack at that one day.
yeah, this one's been a little bit of time since it came out, and I think it was like November. All the South Park games, though, they're fun. I mean, Stick of Truth, still my favorite of the two, but they were both really good games. I mean, if you like South Park, pick those up. Well worth it. Some copies of Fractured Butthole come with a copy of Stick of Truth. So you can get both games, you can give it a try.
Yeah.
And Stick of Truth on almost every platform, and cheap. But other things that I've watched this week, I've been working on Code Geass, Lelouch the Rebellion. I've finished season 1, and I'm working on season 2, and I'm actually quite happy with that so far. It's been good. It's been all I've really been watching lately. I can't think of anything else I've watched this time around. It's kind of been bad for my watching. But
Geass is a really good series. I watched it a while back. I actually picked it up. I think we both had the Bandai release of the series, which became very pricey.
yeah.
But then Funimation got hold of it when
And
that was it.
released it.
Sunrise, I think that, or is that the name of the studio?
yeah.
There's that they put all their stuff up for grabs, and Funimation grabbed a whole bunch of it, and or rather Bandai, when they shuttered their American operations, things
Yeah.
went up for grabs. And I still need to see the spin-off Akito the Exiled, but I don't feel like paying what
Yeah, me-
Funimation's been charging.
Me neither at this point.
Yeah. But the show's great. It did come right on the tail of Death Note, and there are a lot of similarities to the point where some people
Yeah.
said Geass was a ripoff. I have to say this,
Yeah.
though. I like Death Note. I think Geass is far and away the better show.
The characters are more likable.
Well, that's part of it.
And
In Death Note, it's so bleak and nihilistic. Light is a total douchebag. And Lelouch is light, but he has a soul. He has
Yeah.
a conscience. He actually does care about other people. He's similarly monomaniacal and twisted by
Well,
power, but, you know.
unlike Light, though, Lelouch
Yeah.
is not a sociopath, and
Exactly.
that's where your difference is, because
Yeah.
Light did not care,
Right.
whereas Lelouch, because he gets a really bad rap online. Yes, the things he does are pretty
Oh, yeah.
terrible, but the most terrible things he doesn't really do with the full intention
Right.
of doing
We
it.
were just talking before the show, and
And,
we're not going to tell you any spoilers. You got to watch this show on
Yeah.
your own. But there's a couple people who get it worse than anyone else, that he was not the intentional instigator of their fate. You know, he may have been involved, because he was involved, but it wasn't intentional. But speaking of animes, I've had quite a bit of viewing the last
wow.
couple weeks, and I'll get to the anime in a bit. But as I say in our preview video, I went yesterday with a friend to see Phantom Thread, and they sold out. So we saw Darkest Hour instead, which still checked off a lot of the Oscar boxes, which is good. And we went from the one possible Best Actor winner to the one likely. I'm Gary Oldman. This is, even though Daniel Day-Lewis, even though the Academy loves him and he's brilliant, and this is his swan song,
Yeah.
Gary Oldman is also brilliant, and he's overdue for Oscar love, and he's playing a beloved historical figure and nails him to a T. He is the one to beat this year. He does such a good job as Churchill. But the amazing thing is, the movie's actually enjoyable. It's from the guy, Joe Wright, the guy that did Atonement, which is probably not the best one to lead off on this comment, but Pride and Prejudice, Hannah, The Soloist.
Yeah.
This is a guy who knows how to make a good movie. And he does. He makes a good movie. And it's really well done. It's almost a shoo-in for makeup and actor. Probably not going to win the other awards, but I actually liked it better than Dunkirk. And it is funny that these two, and there's a third movie called Churchill that has, I think, Brian Cox as Churchill, all came out this year. And it's like, isn't that something?
They all come out like it's like themed movies come out at the same time.
And this one basically takes place from the eve of Churchill's rise to power with Neville Chamberlain stepping down up through the evacuation of Dunkirk. That's the time frame that's shown.
Well, that's Darkest Hour, right?
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool
yeah.
to watch that in Dunkirk.
Yeah,
back
it would
to back,
be. It would be. Now the other thing, more episodes, Friends. I'm almost done with season 6 finally, and Everybody Loves Raymond. I saw a couple of movies that were interesting. Yesterday, I watched a little film that apparently did pretty good with a lot of the Independent Spirit Awards and GLAAD and some of these others. It was a movie called Mesquita y Mari. It was a pretty good little movie. It was a lot of fun. And I finally saw, talking about our Oscar movies, the one that you declared is going to win Best Animated Feature. I finally saw Despicable Me 3. It is quite fun.
At least financially. If the Oscars are 100% based on money and studio power, that would be the winner.
I admit, it's not the best series in the world, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And Trey Parker plays the villain in this one, and he just nails it. You know, he does such a good job with that. Actually, the part where they play him as the kid, he does occasionally sound, I would say probably, is it Kyle, I guess, that he sounded the most like in that part?
Okay.
Yeah. Probably Kyle or Stan, one of them.
Dude.
Exactly. But he plays like this guy who's stuck in the 80s, and he's like this 80s themed villain, which is god awful and great at the same time.
Perfect for this coming generation.
Yeah. But are you pausing or?
Well, any case.
Okay, I'm glad we had a pause because it gave me a chance to remember. Another thing I saw was something that we mentioned on the previews some 3 months ago ish.
Wow.
It was a mini series, which I thought at the time was a movie, but I watched Big Pacific. It's a 4-episode series, and it's actually very good. It's very cool. Has some very interesting stuff in it, and beautiful footage as you would expect.
So it's like a documentary, not like a war documentary.
No.
Not like The Pacific.
It's a nature documentary.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Big Pacific is a nature. It's 4 episodes. It's a mysterious, violent, voracious, and passionate, I think, are the names of the title. And they each have a theme, and of course, they follow the theme. And it's narrated, I want to say, by Daniel Day Kim. It's a really good series, and it's worth looking at. I didn't realize it was a series when I picked it up, and I looked down, 240 minutes? What? Oh. And speaking of series, I did finish off, I believe last video, I said I was halfway through Full Metal Panic Second Raid. I finished that off, and I watched Fumafu, and he has been telling me for a long time that Fumafu is a fun...
It is a fun series.
It is. Fumafu is freaking hilarious. I loved it. And then I moved on. I'm trying to... We're both kind of getting into this vague of let's try to hit some of the big anime.
Yeah.
And my next one wasn't a top shelf, but it's one I've heard a lot about. I'm halfway through watching a romance series called Golden Time. And it's very interesting. It's very weird.
Oh, cool.
But ANN's review intrigued me. I looked at their review of the first 6 episodes. Their impression is the same as their impression for Fairy Tail. which is a criticism I haven't heard very often, but I've heard. And basically, the idea is they say Golden Time could have been a great series if it weren't for the director. Basically, they felt that it was one of the most shoddily directed series of the past few years, but that it could be great. And it has some other issues, too. It does have an amnesia plot, which can be a very big issue. It does have the two girls fighting over one guy, but not really, sort of thing. The biggest issue with it is that the main character is amnesiac, but he is a milquetoast. So it's like he has an excuse for being a milquetoast, but but the female, Kaga Koda, or Coco Kaga, sorry. She is very interesting. She is a fascinating, deep, complex character, but she also is the girlfriend from hell. And I have trouble supporting this romance because she's a blatant stalker. And so it's like, and she's psychotically possessive. She's an awful girlfriend, except that this guy actually is able to let it happen. So it's kind of like, But the funniest thing about it, which amuses me, is his next door neighbor, the main guy, Bonri, his next door neighbor is a dark-haired, youngish, 20-ish punk rocker, guitarist, lead singer of a 3-piece punk rock band, and her name is Nana. Oh. And there's another Nana who happens to be her friend, her very dear friend.
That's not a coincidence.
That's not a coincidence. And I was watching, I'm like, is this supposed to be the same character? And what's even funnier is, I don't know if you remember from Fumafu, there were those two police ladies that were blatantly a nod to You're Under Arrest. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, I have 2 series in a row where they almost shamelessly pull from other series. It's kind of interesting. But I'm really curious to see where this show goes, but it's,
Actually, it's kind of funny that you mentioned Nana, because that's what I've got slated as my next to watch. Because once I'm through with the current one, I am literally probably a handful of episodes from the end.
Cool.
And
so you are hitting some big ones.
So yeah, I'll be hitting one that I should have hit a long time ago.
Me too. We both own Nana and have had it for years.
And the live action film.
I have seen the live action films twice. I've seen both of them twice. But I haven't even watched an episode of the anime. But unfortunately, it's on DVD, and it's an in, which means that unless I just completely start saying screw it with my rules, I'm not going to get to it for a long time. I will say, though, it's a music series, it's a pretty series, and it's a classic series. If they ever do a Blu-ray re-release and I can get it dirt cheap, I will upgrade, if only so I can watch the damn thing. But I want to see it. I want to read it. But I think we only have the first volume in the library, so it's like, there's no sense in that. But the first movie is great. The second movie,
Well,
but
speaking of DVDs,
Yep.
I will let you lead off since I did last.
Okay. And I am once again having to shelve all the stuff from before the holidays. Next week, I hope I get back to it. But last week, I went to the library, and I just happened to get 5 items, and it was a great pickup. And I was like, this has got to be Monday's thing. The first one is a series I'm very interested in seeing. Again, I won't get to it for ages unless I end up getting it on Blu-ray. But it's one I'm very interested in seeing. I've heard a lot about, and I was able to get the first season for $1, so I could not say no. That is the series Mad Men. That is a very high-profile series from the last few years. Very, very, very popular. Check out at the library. People, this one moves across the counter all the time.
Actually, you should
I'm
probably.
very interested in seeing this, but
you should prioritize used ones, because you never know when they, especially for $1, it could be scratched.
It could be, but then again,
it
was only $1, so it's not like I'm out too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like okay, I want my dollar back. But
Exactly.
you know,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's just there's just so much to watch. But
Everybody has just as a quick fill in. We both have different systems as to how we watch things. I have stuff turned down in my collection, which is why I didn't get to my collection video. Because I wanted to retake. I did one take, but it really wasn't that thorough.
okay,
So my next take on it, when I finally get to it, I'll do a room tour. Then I'll say, okay, now I'm going to just start going through it so you can see them shelf by shelf. But I'm not going to do that until I have like a nice little pause in between, so people can say, okay, I've seen the room. I don't need to see all this bull crap. But I know some people like looking at a person's collection itself, and that way I give you a good tour of everything I have. But I turn all the ones down. You might even see it in the background how some of them are turned down, except for the Criterions, because they look very pretty standing up.
well, they all look prettier standing up.
Yeah,
but,
they do. But the way I look at it is, if I have started flipping them back up,
Yeah.
it shows accomplishment.
Yeah.
And me, I prioritize used first. Used is absolute first. I will drop everything else because I never know about. You never know for any of them, but used especially.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a DVD, because those things, DVDs are fairly flimsy. Not as flimsy as CDs, but Blu-rays are much tougher.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just pick something that I want to watch. Sometimes at random. Sometimes I try to do some alphabetical, but that's how it is. And then I might decide to rewatch stuff if I'm in a mood to rewatch something. But mostly it's just stuff I've got turned down. I've got a lot to watch. Your system is very different.
Well, I do prioritize used, but I don't make it like an exact science, And like I said, right now with the anime, I'm trying to prioritize the ones that I have not really seen before, and especially the high-profile ones. Now, there are some exceptions. I've already slated for the one that's going to follow Golden Time is one that I kinda, sorta watched in English, but it was in a group setting where I wasn't able to give it my full attention, and it was in English. And so I've slated Durara for my next watch, and I'm going to do that. So that's kind of sort of ticking off a box. But the big issue is I have almost no used Blu-ray or anime. I think I have 2.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of used DVD, but almost all of it is after the point in the alphabet that I'm technically up to. So I have to prioritize new for anime. But for the other stuff, yeah, I really need to work on that. I've got a crap ton of used
He's
stuff.
rewatching all of his stuff from A to Z. Or is it Z? No, it's A to Z, right?
A to Z, technically, okay, well, the way this worked was I started at the beginning, and when I started at the beginning, I had I had TV and movies separate. I got all the way up to the end of the movies. Technically, at the time, it was The Young Lions, was as far as I got in the movies. And then I started with sets and television. Now they're all filed together. Anime is separate, and Criterion is now separate. I copied that off of him. But I'm trying to go, and I had gotten up to Heroes for my DVDs. Movies, like I said, I can go anywhere with movies. Technically, I'm cheating with the Z's, but I don't care. But with TVs, I'm trying to keep some semblance of order. It's taking time. I may get rid of that because I want to.
When do we expect your room tour for?
When I have a room.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
right?
your shelf tour. You got some good shelves up.
Oh yeah, I do. And I've thought about doing a mini room tour, but it's depressing. I won't have a room like this for ages, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But if I can at least get a proper room. Yeah, I'll one day.
One day.
One day.
Well, my first of the pickups is relatively new, which is Napping Princess.
Very new.
Now, I'll admit, I did not take this and get it for any other reason other than it went down in price. for a short time. G-Kids is a good publisher,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got a decent pedigree. So I know it's probably pretty good.
Jeez, it's got an awesome pedigree.
So I
yeah.
do look forward to seeing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on my like super radar, but I do want to see it eventually.
This is on the list of films that were submitted for Oscar consideration, so it's one of the anime that may have gotten gypped when freaking Boss Baby got a nod. Plus, again, pedigree. Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, Eden of the East, those people are the ones behind this. So if you've seen either, Eden of the East is great. And standalone complex, I still need, Second Gig is actually one of the ones I'll be watching soon. But I'm also trying to limit how many series I'm doing at a time. And I'm trapped with Friends and Everybody Loves Raymond.
Well, you don't want to get confused with Friends and Everybody Loves Raymond. You can watch them like an episode at a time.
But it takes forever.
Something like Second Gig, you really got to keep it going,
Yeah.
and you can't have too much going on in the background because you'll get confused. It's
With
just too many details.
For example, with Full Metal Panic, and with Golden Time, I averaged about 4 episodes a night, and that is a pretty good way to do those series. You do them in 3 to 6 blocks. You're done. You got a new series, and anime moves quickly in most cases. It's easy to watch it quickly. Some of these other shows are easy to watch quickly too, but I watched your review for Muppet Show, and I agree that some shows you got to do in small chunks.
Yeah.
Like, I will admit, I enjoy Everybody Loves Raymond, but I can't enjoy it in big chunks. I have to do a few at a time, or a couple at a time.
Oh yeah.
I can't just sit and watch it. So
It's but again, but the good thing about those shows is you can put them down, and you can pick them right back up, and you're not missing.
You're not missing. You're not losing out.
So,
So my next one.
yeah,
Okay, this is a big one.
Oh,
This
next
is one I've been wanting for a long time, and I was just too cheap to get. And I thought about getting it on Blu-ray when it came out on Blu-ray, but then I got a chance to get it on DVD for $1.
Boom.
It's done. I finally got the Back to the Future trilogy. This is definitely an essential for any collection. And this will be a priority. I mean, this is easily one I could
watch
get
it with
to.
the family.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't imagine anybody in the family not wanting to watch those. Those are pretty good.
These are fun movies. And actually, when they did that thing 2 years ago, last year,
Yeah.
when they did that, like, the big to-do of Back to the Future 2.
Oh, yeah, because that was that year. That
Yeah,
they went to, yeah.
I actually got to see the first 2 movies back to back in the movies. They did a special screening, and that was really cool. That was a fun experience. I haven't seen the third movie in a while, but I always liked it, and it was good. But yeah, Robert Zemeckis is a very talented director. These two, Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, these are 2 of the classic 80s characters, actually.
I was surprised you didn't have that in your
I
collection.
know, me too.
That's
but
like-
now I do.
Yeah, you got one of the essentials. That's a
Yep.
big one. So this one is the only one that I've got in my pile that's not new at all. But I said to myself, I've rediscovered it. Back when I was moving, there were 3 films that had fallen behind my shelves. And when you've got shelves like I do, you don't want to move them. Especially the old black shelves, because you moved those, everything fell off. And I wasn't going to take everything down and then put it all back up again. That was a nightmare already. I don't want to think about it. And one particular double feature. What's funny is the 2 Evangelion movies, I didn't even know they fell. And I didn't care, which is kind of sad. But the other one was one that I did care and I did miss. And I do plan on watching this again in the near future. And that is The Haunting double feature. This is, The Haunting in Connecticut and The Haunting in Georgia. This came out right before the movie of Haunting in Connecticut released. And of course, the sequel of that was Haunting in Georgia. So you got to see it. Now, what's funny is this is the supposed real story and documentary about what happened. And it was really good. I mean, rarely do documentaries. There's like 2 I can think of that actually have left me with chills and a little creeped out if I'm in the dark and alone. the Haunting in Connecticut one. The Haunting in Georgia one is good, but not like Haunting in Connecticut one. And then there's another one that was about sleep paralysis. I don't know if you've seen this. I can't remember what it was called, but it was creepy as all get out. I do want to get that eventually in my collection because it is one of the few documentaries that legit scared me. I could not watch it all the way in the dark. And you know me, I'm pretty desensitized when it comes to horror.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take much. There's only a handful of horror movies that scare me, and that was one of them. And this one also was the other. So I really do want to watch it again to see if it still holds that level. Have you seen these?
I have not, but now you're talking about that. That sounds really interesting. And Ian, I'm definitely, I need to see more documentary. Actually, I've got a documentary coming up here in just a minute. I am making an active effort to get and to watch more documentaries, but not as active as I would like to. I did grow up watching Unsolved Mysteries, and I loved that when I was a kid. And I always liked the haunting stories. Thought they were pretty fun, so that would be worth a look, I bet.
Now, if you find Unsolved Mysteries in the wild, grab it up because they are insanely expensive online.
Hard to get.
And, very limited releases.
Did they ever do a proper release of the
No,
series? It's
just
like bits and pieces,
Bits and
right?
pieces,
Yeah.
but still.
But still, yeah. We have a couple volumes at the library, and they are still popular checkouts. But, my next one is, I'm not too crazy about the edition, but the next three were all part of that library pickup, and they're all brand new. So they're brand new, unopened. They were only $1. That's awesome. This is a Canadian edition, which nothing to say about Canadians, but I generally am not too crazy about Canadian editions, partly because they do a double thing on the side where you see the title is reversed, and I just don't think that looks very good. But I finally got Philippe Noiret's film Cinema Paradiso, which is one of the highly acclaimed films, one of the highly acclaimed foreign language Oscar winners of all time. It was 1989, I believe it was.
It was really good.
It was
this
really
is my version of it.
Yeah, see, he got a nice little Blu-ray release. Looks identical otherwise.
That's not
except for the
it's
back.
not Canadian.
Yeah. So this is a really good movie. If you've never seen it, it is well worth a watch. I've been wanting to get it for a long time. I did want to get a nice edition. I felt like it was one that deserved a really nice edition, but I couldn't pass it up for $1. So this one's going to essentially be a placeholder copy. I'll probably upgrade it one of these days. If I can get it on Blu-ray for less than $5, I will.
Which I did for this one.
Yeah, but for now, at least it's finally in the collection.
Well, the next one is not a video game, but very fresh as far as... Actually, all of these I got with that between the last pickup video and this pickup video. And the first one came out
So it's not a video
Thursday.
game?
I mean, it is a video game, sorry. And I have been a fan of the original of this game for a long time. And if you are a fan of the Incognita Cinema Warriors, where they've got their new channel, Robot Co-op, check them out. They are doing a playthrough of the original of this game, and that game is Secret of Mana. This was one of my favorite SNES games. Now they've redone it up to like 3D, redid the music score. I mean, I really wish they would have allowed you to get a download of the original, or a way to switch it back and forth as to do some. The 3D model's kind of like, it's an okay redo so far, but it could have been done better. One option that I really do like is that you can go with their current soundtrack, which is decent, but you can go back to the original soundtrack that they had on the SNES, and that's kind of cool. I mean, this really was way ahead of its time when it came out. It was the sequel to a game that was known in the United States as Final Fantasy Adventure, which was, it's part of the second Densetsu series, if I'm saying it right. And they did do a remaster of that on the PlayStation Vita, called Final Fantasy. Yeah, I think they did Final Fantasy Adventure. So if you get a chance, try this out. It's really cool. If you got an SNES, of course, get the original. I thought they did better with the original, but still, it's great to be able to have the option to own this for your game system.
Very good. All right. My next one, speaking of that documentary I was talking about.
Much nicer than my version.
Yeah, is it?
Oh, paid $20 for it, did you?
Well, apparently. Well, okay, so I actually was keenly aware of when the stuff that this documentary is about
History.
is a bit of history. Yes, and you've seen it, right?
Yep.
This is a documentary I've been wanting to see for a long time. It's very, very highly rated. I have not yet seen it, but it's basically a documentary about free speech and where art and politics collide, and it's called "Shut Up and Sing." And it's about the Dixie Chicks. And you may or may not recall the moment that the Dixie Chicks went from being the country darlings to being the pariah of everyone who is your stereotypical country fan. They basically, Natalie Maines stood up and said in front of a crowd, "We are ashamed that Bush is from Texas." And that's a rough thing to say when you're a country
to a
group.
Bush crowd, yeah.
Now, I like the Dixie Chicks from the get-go. I liked them when they were just starting out. I saw them when they were just starting out. And I like them even more after that. I'm not going to go too much into politics on this channel, but I have to say I respected them for taking a stand. And I was blindsided by the blindsiding they got for this.
Yeah.
It was astonishing. So I'm very interested to seeing this and seeing what, and a different take on it. And this, they did come back. Their comeback single, if it will, was called "Not Ready to Play Nice," or I think was the title.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good song, but it definitely was a defiant. We are going to be us and accept that or not. And you got to respect any artist that is willing to, as long as their stand is not like illegal or immoral or flat out stupid.
Well, I mean, you think about it. I mean, people like, say, Hank Williams Jr., they can talk about putting their boot up a president's butt, and they'll be, fine. It's about the crowd that you sing to, though. It's, or the president that you talked about. Like, if he tried to do that about the current president, which he wouldn't because you support him, but he probably would get the same reaction.
Right. And the weird thing is, they haven't really done anything musically that's all that political. Most of their music is relatively innocuous if you're looking at it from a political prism. And then you get people who do blatantly political stuff that, sometimes that really does affect careers.
It's all about your crowd, though.
Yeah.
Like I said, Hank Williams Jr. Then you've got, on the other side, Green Day. I mean, look at Green Day, NoFX. Their songs are very political, but the crowd that they're singing to, they're good with that. So,
and then you get ones that eventually the politics gets whitewashed out, and people forget. I mean, one of my all-time favorite songs is a straight-up protest song. CCR's "Fortunate Son" is as protesty as you can get, and yet, do people think of it that way? No, they think about it because of the bad guitar riff. That's it, and it's kind of sad, but Anyway.
So this one is one that came to me in a post from one of the groups that I follow. I follow a lot of DVD groups, and sometimes they give me a line on things. Sometimes. One thing that they did prior was they posted over and over again, "This anime is going out of print. Buy it while you can." Unfortunately, everybody decided to buy it, and then it went out quicker, and I was unable to get it when Right Stuff did their sale. He got it, but he wasn't tipped out by that. He just ended up getting it. Then another tip came up, but I caught it just as it aired. It's probably gone now. That Amazon was offering it even cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait, the premium edition? Really?
Mm-hmm.
And that is Fuse.
She's there.
Memoirs of a Huntress.
Mm-hmm.
So, the cheapest NIS set I have ever gotten. I mean, I don't think I've ever paid $10 for a premium Blu-ray NIS set.
Yeah,
I
think I paid $15 for it, which is still a pretty good price. But yeah.
But yeah, and that was it back at that time. I mean, that one and Brave 10, two that are probably out of print now, and I'm sure that their value will only go up. These things always do. Good sets, good solid sets.
Well, they are out of print because NIS isn't really printing those anymore.
And you still can't get them on Right Stuff. You can't. They don't even have a listing for it.
Yeah, I know.
They stopped listing it basically after everybody decided to gank them for it.
I think their warehouse ran out. Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll probably dig some up in a couple of months. You know, what's going to piss me off is if they dig up some copies of School Live 2 and I didn't get that in time. But yeah, those NIS sets are so fun.
Another really good. Wow. Yeah. Did you get that one for $1?
Yep.
Good Lord.
So, my last one, again, brand new. This is, I think we've mentioned on this channel a few times. I have decided that I have been dragging my feet and being lazy when it comes to building up my Criterion collection. I have a fair one, but it's nothing extraordinary. It's a fraction of the size of his collection. So anytime that I really wasn't fully expecting to find any at the library, but I actually found two. But one of them is already open and it's missing the booklet that comes in every single one. I really, really wanted to get Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, but someone's going to get lucky and get that for $1, so good for them. But this one is brand new. It's unopened, so I know it's got everything that's supposed to come with it. It's it's a movie I've not seen, but it is an old movie that is widely considered a classic. And this is the film The Red Shoes. And it's a 1948 film that's 2.25 hours long, about stage performers, dancers apparently. So I'm not sure that I'm thrilled to be watching this one anytime soon.
Still an important film.
But it's an important film and an important addition to my collection, and I can't believe I got a brand new unopened Criterion for $1. So that's pretty sweet. And it's definitely it's a good example of it. You never know what you're going to find. It's always good to be on the lookout. And definitely Criterion, we've talked about Criterion on this a few times. They do have a tendency sometimes to jump the gun and put out movies that probably should have marinated for another 5 or 10 years. But they also are really good about reaching back and getting the big ones and pulling out. There's still a lot of movies that really need a Criterion release that I can't believe they haven't looked at. But they are pulling some big ones. I mean, we've mentioned before, I think Silence of the Lambs came out this week. And then Breakfast Club just came out. Night of the Living Dead's coming up. Yeah. What else is coming? There was another big one that's coming up. But yeah, they've got some good high-profile stuff coming out regularly, lower-profile stuff regularly. And they are good at going back and getting the artsy stuff. Like they just put out one. What was that one that just came out? The Japanese one. It was like one of the only things that came out this week.
What was it? Sword? No.
No, it's
Sword of the not the Immortal.
I don't remember exactly, but it's like an old Japanese film that is apparently kind of they're good about live action Japanese. I think Criterion needs to be behind the re-release of Perfect Blue because it's way overdue for a release.
Well, you can bet that there's going to be a Criterion for Island of Dogs.
Yeah. You can count on one hand the number of animated features they've done. Fantastic Mr. Fox, Watership Down, I think that's it.
Yep.
Just stupid.
I mean, there was a couple. I mean, I've got one that I
Yeah.
added to my collection that I need to. I'll put up probably once to show. That was very much should have a Criterion. There are a lot of good Criterion animated.
But yeah, as far as animated stuff goes, I could see if Disney could release their vice grip a little bit, I could see Criterion doing like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or The Lion King, or Up, or something like that. Those would be really good Criterion movies. Outside of that, again, Perfect Blue, Grave of the Fireflies, probably Castle of Cagliostro. You know, there are some that really could use that treatment. So open letter to Criterion. Start looking at animation.
Artifacts.
You're not talking about that Belgian film, are you? I hope you're not. No. Boring movie.
As you can see, my Criterion collection, the one I've combined with my wife's collection back there, where the little rubber ducky is over there, and a couple of pups. That's Judging.
Oh, they released a rubber ducky? All right.
Yeah, you see, it's over there. So
the Criterion release of Howard the Duck is going to be...
It's guarded by Dobby back there. So I saved the best for last.
This is cool looking.
For those of you who have been following along, you know that I have been backing Evil Bong 777. So they offered, if you increased your money a little bit, they offered that as a bonus, the first 10 to do it would get a copy of this box.
They should have called it Seventh Heaven.
So this is the Charles Brand's Empire Pictures box set. Now, each one comes signed. There's only 600 produced. And
look, show them the list of movies there. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I guess that's more impressive.
I'm going to show you the. You see these things? They're mostly little monster movies and 80s. A lot of 80s style movies. And you can see over here the way that the Blu-rays are put in. Yeah. They're actually pretty good quality ones. I mean, like here's a good one for Metal Storm. And they got a booklet that comes in here, by the way, which you can see that's about their stuff and about what they have in there. So I'll go over what's in it real quick. So what we have is, of course, Metal Storm and Metal Storm 3D. You know, the destruction of Jared's sin. My father always loved that movie. He always called it Jared's Sin, so I could never find it because he never knew the full name of it. And then, of course, Ghoulies 1 and 2. Trancers. For those of you who know about some of these movies, please comment in the bottom. I don't know a lot of these. I know of Metal Storm, and I know Ghoulies 1 and 2, but I don't know Trancers. Or Eliminators and the Dungeon Master.
I'm surprised you don't know the Dungeon Master. That looked like it would be up your alley.
Another version of Crawl Space. There have been several versions of that, and I got like the original version. From Beyond, TerrorVision. I actually liked TerrorVision. I've got a double feature with TerrorVision and Video Dead, which I'm going to be keeping because it's got Video Dead on it, and that was entertaining. But TerrorVision was great. It is. It's 80s cheese horror. Troll, which is why last week you saw
the one I've
Troll
seen
2.
on this list.
Dolls, which, by the way, is one of the creepier films. I mean, I'll show you this here. I mean, as you can see, to me, this was insanely creepy. It scared the crap out of me as a child.
Said the White Rabbit.
Prison, Cellar Dwellers, Catacombs, Ghost Town, Robot Jocks, and Arena. Robot Jocks was another one that I remember from back in the day when I watched, and I actually did like it. It's a mecha-style movie. It kind of, you talk about anime, that's very much inspired by a lot of anime. And it's kind of a cool thing. It's before that, before Pacific Rim, there was Robot Jocks.
Or before the mechas that we were mentioning. Code Geass has a little bit of that, and Full Metal Panic. And
So...
you said Robot Jocks, though. I was thinking, like, almost
Oh,
like
yeah.
Jax, kind of like
Robot
Robot
Jax.
Jax. Yeah, it's a Mortal Kombat sequel or something.
But that's it for this week's pickups.
Yeah.
And, of course, subscribe,
Mhm.
like, comment. Let us know what you think about some of these. What are the things that you are looking forward to coming out? What are the things that you're like on your list that you say, I want this?
Or what are the ones that we need to prioritize in July when Criterion does their next sale? Or
Oh, yeah. Night of the Living Dead is one of those that's up there for me because I'd love to upgrade
I'm actually
it.
tempted. I don't own that, so I'm tempted on that. I have already decided that I intend to upgrade Silence of the Lambs, and I don't own. Actually, one of the movies I had an option to pick up this week was Breakfast Club, but I held off because I feel like that deserves a Criterion
I see,
release.
My Silence of the Lambs is paired with Manhunter.
Huh.
So it's an interesting...
That would be an interesting one for them to pair if they were to do it. And actually, speaking of pairings of things, every now and then Criterion does sets. They did one this past time that I was really tempted, but even the sale price was like $50,
Oh, yeah.
and I owned all 3 movies. But they had a really cool looking Guillermo del Toro set that was Kronos, Pan's
Oh, yeah.
Labyrinth, and The Devil's Backbone. And I want that set. It looks so cool. And I want a set that you have that I think is out of print or it's hard to
Which
get.
one?
That Bergman one that has Through a Glass
Oh,
Darkly
yeah.
on it.
That's a
I need
nice
to-
little
it's
spider
hard to
on
get
the cover.
that one. Yeah.
It's those are worth seeing.
Yeah.
The first movie, especially out of the 3.
Through a Glass Darkly is great. Was that the first one? I can't remember.
It's the one
But all
about the
3 of them
girl
are
with
good.
schizophrenia, and I can't remember
I can't
which one it
remember.
was. But
Yeah.
any case,
Hmm.
I hope you all enjoyed,
Mm-hmm.
and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah.